mechanics. Quantum mechanics says everything is connected. So you are everywhere at the same time with your consciousness. Now it gets really deep, and that once we understand that and accept it, we are able to draw on the information from all these places and put it together for what we intend to create in our mind. Think of what you could do with that. If you had access to all knowledge. It is called city consciousness, CIDI consciousness. That is when you are all mind and you only use the physical body for ease of communication and things that you want to do in the physical existence. There are people that reach that level, but they will never tell you because they don't expect you to understand anyway.
Welcome to the Consciousness of the Way. I am your humble servant and Sifu, Taoist Master San Qing. And what a magical, mystical day it is. I come down to the tree and the universe has brought me this incredible being. I'm so excited to have this conversation with this wisdom teacher, all things, really, quite frankly, a representation of what it means to be contributing to humanity's higher timeline and furthermore, returning people to who they really are. I want to welcome to the podcast, Aage Nost. How are you, my dear friend?
I'm wonderful. I have coffee in hand and I'm ready to go. So
I got the black tea. We're all ready to rock and roll, my dear friend. Why don't we do for the audience, the new audience, a little bit of an abbreviated timeline for how you got here?
Because I think like the joke goes, I was born at a very early age, and I was born on a farm back in Norway, and I was supposed to be a farmer and became an agronomist, but I figured it out that I didn't want to do that the rest of my life. So at the age of 25, I left Norway, came to the United States to go to flight school. And I graduated from there, got all my certificates and ratings all the way up to about multi-engine flight instructor, commercial pilot. So I got everything I needed. And then I worked for other people for 3 years to get more experience. And then me and a partner, we started a flight school that grew into an international air taxi. And we were constituted as an air carrier. And I flew for a living for 23 years. And I burned out. I did too much of it. So I quit and I started doing other things and like development of the mind. I got more into hypnosis, and I traveled around the country for a year teaching a mind development course that was kind of incredible, and they're still doing it. And that is the Zox Pro training course. It's we taught people how to assimilate information out of a book at the rate of 50 to 100,000 words per minute with 95% attention. And this is something I still use it somewhat. I got a very extensive 20-foot long library here, and I think I read at least half of it. And I would say for people out there, step out of the box. I've been out of the box so far now, I have no idea what the box is anymore. And when I came to Tucson, I was hosting and producing 2 TV shows here. That one of them was called the Tucson Access News, and the other one was the Hidden Truth. And what we did, we covered all the information that we're not supposed to know about. And that upset a lot of people upstairs, in the so-called authorities, because we uncovered a few things that they didn't want us to, especially with corruption and things like that. But now I am doing a podcast, and it goes out on the 3 TV stations and Roku and places. I have a wonderful co-host, Nori Love, She is also a hypnotherapist, and she is, you'll see her when you go on the Broadcast Team Alpha on
Mm.
YouTube and 44 other stations, and also on our website at broadcastteamalpha.com. And just for fun of it, when you get there, go into the picture gallery. You will find 5,000 unbelievable pictures of things that should not exist, but it does. That was kind of fun.
Wow.
That's more than you need about me anyway. So
So humble, my dear friend, so humble. But I mean, being an ambassador to this curiosity that the humanist starts to spark, which rises that divinity that starts to
yeah,
ripple through you. And that desire then leads you on a path of your Sherlock to your Watson, which I like to say, you go through the labyrinth of the finite,
yeah,
intellectual, bankrupt mind to find that it has always been empty. You have been robbed. And
yeah,
this is how you start to really embrace your true nature, that intuitive state. And it's from that discovery and experience that you find these nuggets. It's
yeah,
like only can be validated through your truth, through your experience, through your knowing. And that can come from the journey that you take. We call it the Taoist rites, the path of self-realization.
yeah.
And we access that through the immortalized crystalline of this material state. And so I want to talk about how you've integrated these incredible mind. I'm going to call it a mind nurturing awakening for so many people across the globe with your wisdom teaching, and how that is able to help the individual. And furthermore, we referenced your mastery of what I guess good old Bob Monroe will call out of body experience, more conventional technical terms. Astro projection is such a powerful tool for people to discover more about who they are, and that this mundane reality is not true. So let's go deep into this mastery that you've been nurturing and teaching people for so many years.
Yeah,
Journey, my dear friend. From
yeah. You know, it's okay to talk about UFOs and all kinds of calamities that's going on, the politics and all this stuff, but there's one thing, one particular thing that'll kill the capabilities of your mind, and that is TV. I haven't watched the regular TV. I got the big screen on the wall, but I watch YouTube and I watch people that I hold in high regard.
Mm.
Greg Braden, Joe Dispenza, Sadhguru, and people like that. And then I once in a while watch one of my videos because there's good stuff in it that I forgot about. So, and I would think also that everybody want to develop their mind to a higher state of consciousness, but they don't teach you how to do it in school.
Mm.
There, we got to remember, science now, quantum mechanics are proving by repeatable scientific experiments that we live in a mind-created universe. What that means, what you allow to dwell in your mind the most is what you're going to have variants of in your life. Now think about that. That's scary for a lot of us. Man, some of the stuff we think we wouldn't even tell anybody. So we got to watch it. And that's why you should, there's another saying that is that you are going to become like the people you associate with. And your income level is plus or minus about 5,000 of the people that you associate with. If you win the lottery, move out of the neighborhood right away. Or if you become successful at something, move into an area where there are higher conscious people living. because you are in associated mind vibration in that area. And what I would also say, when you start shutting the TV off and you start associating with extremely successful people, it doesn't mean that you have to get in their living room and sit and talk to them. No. I associate with Greg Braden almost daily. I never met the guy, but I watch his videos. I hear his talks. That is a form of association, and you absorb the energy of what he is talking about. Now think about that. If you are, if your biggest thing is become wealthy, which is okay, then don't hang around broke people. The only thing they can tell you is what they are doing. Hang around people that you have in high regard and have a high income. If you want to become a super mind, hang around people that knows how to do that. Greg Braden, Joe Dispenza, and watch my videos and read my books. You will learn things. And the mind learns in a couple of different ways. You can recreate your neural network so it works in your advantage instead of working against you like it does most of the time. And that can do by repetition and hypnosis. Those are the two major ways. Now, repetition, that is very simple, but people just kind of, when, yeah, they say, well, I'm going to start a new leaf over here and we're going to do it this way from now on. And they practice it for 3 or 4 days and they tell themselves, yeah, that didn't work. No, you got to stay with it, because it takes a little more than 3 days to restructure the neural network so it goes into areas of the brain that releases the chemicals that support your hunger for achievement of a higher consciousness and any other thing you are looking for. Does that make any sense?
Oh, 100%. Anyone listening to this, either my students or subscribers, you had them at hello, because this is part of the integrated sort of things that we speak on. I like to help people understand that to arise to a level of ascended state where you access everything, there is a progression, and we always identify with all the layers of possibility, and there is an entry level where, through your conscious and unconscious, the understanding of that relationship, and to move the needle so it is equal, not too much of one and not enough of the other, where this presents the problem where people are on autopilot and they can't understand why their life sucks, because the same thing happens over and over again.
Yeah. And see, our mind can do so much more than what we are told. Mm-hmm. When we go to school, the first grade, second grade, and so on, they teach us how to read, right? They don't teach us the best way to read, because they tell you to get one word at a time. And even before that, you start learning one letter at a time that creates that word. Okay, once you know the letters, everything else can fall into place. That's the same thing as if you live by your life by principles, the details will fall into place. And when it comes to what the mind can do, there's a rumor out there that we can think of only one thing at a time, right?
Yeah, that's a myth.
Yeah, it's a myth.
The mother's tale, and an absolute lie. A lie.
If you want to, we can do a 2-minute mind experiment here, and I will prove to you that you can think of two things at the same time, and you don't need to practice, because it works the first time once you know how.
Excellent. Excellent.
And it's well, if you want us, we can do it, because this is something that really can help people. Think of what you can do. If you can sit doing email and then let the mind work on, let's say, a speech or something that you're going to create later on, put it to structure so that the first thing falls into the second one, and then you develop it and it looks good. Your mind can do that at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say that just for a moment, if you're listening to this driving cars or flying airplanes, shut it off, because I'm gonna see if you can close your eyes and think of your mom. Close your eyes and think of your mom. You see her image in front of you. You can see the image. See her there right in front of you. And then at the same time, start counting. See the image, but also start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. See the image and count. Those two things occupy your mind at the same time, and they both work. You can see the image and you can count at the same time. It proves the concept that you can think about two things at the same time. And once you practice that for a little bit, you can expand it however far you go. I can do one thing at a time and let the mind work on something else at the same time. And by the time I'm done with one thing, the other one is done too. You can do this. And that is just one small thing of what your mind can do.
Yeah.
Your mind can also leave the body and go places and do things, observe things, participate in things, and then come back to the body and keep the memory of it. Some people call it astral travels. It may not be. It may be also consciousness travel. Some people call it soul travel. It's okay under the same umbrella. I don't care what you call it. But this is really simple to learn. I didn't say easy, because there's a little bit of effort on your part. You got to practice this a few. Oh, it took me a little over a month doing it every day to be able to get out. So, but you can. Once you step out of that body, turn around and look at yourself in the bed. You have to know the environment you step into. Otherwise, it could scare the daylight out of you. You can think, oh man, did I die? No, you didn't. It's your consciousness that is looking back at you. And you have to know that.
Yeah.
And believe it. Otherwise, it could be scary. And the first time I got out, man, I scared the daylight out of me, and I tried to get back in the body and it didn't work. I had to fight to get back in. And yeah, but I realized afterwards that, wait a minute, this is what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting because it's quite a phenomenon right now, and it's just like anything. It's a cyclical cycle of spirituality, atheism, religion. This seems to be the human timeline's, love-hate relationship with all these phenomenons, and
Yeah.
it happens at a group level. It happens at a level that is huge, and it transmutes, and effectively the groupthink starts to invade the masses.
Yeah.
And sure enough, before you know it, everyone's on the same page, and they don't know how they got there. And popular demand, the astral projection, the astral plane is always something that people come back to in their curiosity to find their true self and mastery, because it can be something that self-evident fairly quickly if you're given the right tools to acquire that. And I love the way that you talked about showing someone the ability to what would conventionally be called a multitask scenario, where that seems impossible for anybody. Specifically, the throwaway cliches are, men have no potential of being able to multitask, and women are, the facet of they have the ability to multitask at will. There's truth to everything, yet the true nature of your Shen, we call it, your spirit, is that, within the alchemical process that I teach people, you are able to be all things and nothing at the same time. And so that means the potential, the deep nature of what we call Nidan, the internal alchemy, with you are rising, the rising of the power within you, the charge you and I got right now, the excitement that we're getting, is the fact that it's Nigong, the internal power. And that is evidence. Like this psychokinetic experience we're having right now is evidence of unification. The commune that we're having, we're oscillating and resonating at the same frequency that makes it possible for us to match that. And you feel it viscerally, kinesthetically, somatically. And, to pay homage to your dear friend Greg Braden, the commonality or the simplicity of the neuroplasticity would come in the form of mirror neurons. I mean, what you see, you cannot unsee. And that reveals that true nature and your ability to access it once it is accessible. Oh, yes, it will be yours. Oh, yes, it will. That is the true nature. Elementary, my dear Watson. This is you get that aha moment. And so Nigong is a mastery of in limitless amounts of abilities where you transmit the frequency, which we speak in frequential states. Everything is energy potential, which is created by your attention intention, which forms this currency that is the currency of your attention, energy potential. That energy potential is frequential. It has a vibratory state, and ultimately, if met with that resonance and that ability to cultivate that resonance, oh yes, it will be yours. Oh yes. And so Nigong goes deeper into you can transmit, admit this resonance endlessly in all different situations at will, meaning that it starts to support and promote what you're speaking of. And this is an ancient practices that we teach, where you can literally be in an infinite amount of places at once, and your ability to just take your attention and focus your intention will then blossom the evidence of that. So you can move it at will, but they're all taking place immediately, and it has the same amount of resonance. So the potency comes in the substance, the palpability of that. You must be able to feel it, that the plasma effect of this substance is now, and you must be able to move and use this potential and show evidence of it. The experiential moment is so potent for your believing to knowing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, what you were talking about, being everywhere at the same time, quantum mechanics is supporting what you're saying. Because as an example, there's a scientist, his name is James Gates. He says that when we look deep in the equations, that explains the fundamental particles of the fabric of space, we find computer language. We didn't put it there, but it shows up in order to explain what is there. So if there is computer language in the fabric of space, there's got to be a computer somewhere, right? Got to be. Where's that computer? I like to point to the computer. It is you. Because they're being everywhere at the same time and knowing it is because quantum mechanics says everything is connected. So you are everywhere at the same time with your consciousness. Now it gets really deep, and that once we understand that and accept it, we are able to draw on the information from all these places and put it together for what we intend to create in our mind. Think of what you could do with that. If you
No.
had access to all knowledge. It is called city consciousness, CIDI consciousness. That is when you are all mind and you only use the physical body for ease of communication and things that you want to do in the physical existence. There are people that reach that level, but they will never tell you because they don't expect you to understand anyway. There are people that have reached a level where they can know what's going on in other places, and they have the information and they use it for their purpose. They usually become very successful at what they do, and they can be in two places at the same time. It is verified several instances when Sadhguru have done it, but Baba Ji, he was verified to be in doing a speech here and being in someone else's location in another place, both at the same time. That's verified. That's locked down. He was. And there are people like him, not so high profile necessarily, but they have studied, they practiced, and you know how that works. It takes a little effort, and that's where you weed out the ones that want the little pill, and okay, I got it now. That pill doesn't exist. It is one that you got to nurture for a while.
Well, I think you're referring to cities, right? So that's a form of, is that a Sufi, a transformative state, which I'm familiar with,
Mhm.
and that's sort of like a superpower. Within Taoism, we have a very clear path of ascension. It starts
Yeah.
with the physical body, the energy body, the spirit body, the sun body, the earth body, the moon body, the oneness body, the ultimate, and then being, and that accesses this source, which I am in commune with my teacher Lao Tzu on a second by second basis, and I
Yeah.
channel him from an experiential moment for the seekers to experience the visceral, kinesthetic, somatic response of that. Because when you are in you a true vessel or catalyst or conduit to this state of unification, the transmuted effect within this duality will be evidence of supernatural ability that will seem beyond your capacity within your imagination, but it will show itself. This is where you become more, I'm an old school channeler, having done it for over 36 years, where when I channel the energy, light a flame, put it under my skin, and it will not distort the flesh, because this is the evidence at a subatomic level being commandeered with the immortal state, the crystallized state that now presents itself in the material.
Yeah.
And so this is a very ancient practice, but these are more evidence-based stuff. And for alchemical process, I think a lot of people get misguided, especially within Taoism, because it it's pursued as a desirous sort of state to be in, but there are very few people that can teach that alchemical process where we are truly aligning and returning to what we call the primordial mother, which
Yeah.
is the void, the absolute creation of all things. And that's when you have the secret source. That's when you do things where I take my forearm and run a skewer through it, pull it out. There's no entry or exit point, and people freak out and go, What did you? This is undeniable." Well, these are just as you referred to the Sufi practice of siddhas. This is what we call evidence-based experiences that are transmuted at a level that is beyond this electromagnetism,
Yeah.
but you're bringing it to this space. You're
Mm-hmm.
showing people this raises their curiosity, which desires evidence. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the exciting part I love about this astral projection, is that it's very mystical, it's very magical for most people. I think the absolute spiritual community abuse is where they're going on right now, with this absolute necessity to only access astral projection through sleep paralysis, which is such a misdirection, in my opinion. That's an access point that is not something that you want to consciously start cultivating, because the potential of no return raises the bar.
Yeah, and they put a block in your way too, that you cannot advance from there.
Yes.
But can I dwell on this mind-created universe just a little more? Because there's a way to prove that to yourself. In the physicality, you can see it. And that is that a mind-created universe, that means that the mind creates everything around you. So it all depends on what you allow to be totally convinced in your mind of being real. And that is why I am a total believer, on the basis of quantum mechanics, that we live in a simulation. We are the projector of the simulation. Let me give you an example. I am a hypnotist. If I put you in a soft chair and talk to you for about 10 minutes, and I tell you that when I snap my finger and wake you up, you will see an elephant standing right next to you in the room. I don't care if you are on the 31st floor of an apartment building, but doors are too small, there's no way the elephant could make it there. If I did my job right, you'd see the elephant. You can reach out and touch the snout on him, then you can feel the rough skin. You can hear him breathing, you smell him. The elephant is right there. You see him, you experience that elephant. But there's a problem. I can't see the elephant because there's no elephant there. What happened to your reality right now? Did it go away? Yes, it did. Because I helped you to convince you that there were an elephant there, but you created the elephant by a total belief. When you lowered your brainwave pattern into down below 7, into the theta range, whatever I tell you becomes truth to you. And that is why it is so tricky. Whenever you do a hypnosis session, make sure it is recorded so you can hear it afterwards. But that is it proves to you that your mind can create that elephant. Your mind, over a long period of time, have been able to, through common acceptance, create everything around you. Everything around you. This mouse for the computer, well, there you go, is mind created. Now, that one is hard to wrap our head around, but think about the elephant and it will make sense to you.
That is very potent, my friend. It's like I love the way that you're approaching it, because I've got 6 kids of my own. I teach them all the fundamentals, and entry level into high level of ascension is understanding the relationship between conscious and unconscious, and what that means, and what it takes for you to participate in becoming fully conscious and acquiring, as you mentioned, and I've been measuring my brainwaves for many, many decades, this brainwave state. Generally, when I witness physical healing or any type of mental, emotional, spiritual healing, it's at a 40 to 100 hertz frequency, and I've got as high as 400. Now, that doesn't go in line with a lot of the conventional timelines or frequencies that might be represented within a conscious community, like is it David Hawke or Stephen Hawke has a conscious timeline. It doesn't make any sense to me, because I witness physical healing all the time around 100 hertz. So that's for the audience. What we're speaking of is you are now 100% conscious. That means you can access epsilon to lambda. I mean, at this point, the hertz frequency that I've personally measured doesn't even doesn't even have a number. It doesn't even have a name. We're going beyond the Greek terminology to basically anything is possible. They start, as you heighten that frequency, what happens? They just start going, accelerated or high level of gamma or whatever they want to call it. I really don't care. It's just incredible. When you reference that theta state is so potent, because I've discovered that you can be in epsilon or gamma and you are still accessing complete consciousness, which will then refer to you as, hang on, that defies that. Epsilon, you're not, you would be from a hypnotist perspective in a somnambulistic state. And that means that you have no memory of what it is that's taking place. Right. Yet it is an access that you can alter the framework of your reality at will, which I think is so potent. Is when you realize you can do that, what is impossible? It's now up to you as a seeker to a knower to refine that.
Yeah.
And so when you show someone, for all intensive purposes, if we have a psychologist here, they would call that a reverse hallucination. Oh my goodness, the elephant in the room that doesn't exist to everyone else that's commonly witnessing your phenomena as you're having this very visceral experience. I mean, it's so potent, because I think that this is a myth that I would love you to validate from me. And I tell people this because the first signs of identifying mind control comes from when you're emotionally or suggestible.
Yeah.
So very, very few people understand this. And this is where I believe Aage is like very, very clear when he says, I don't watch anything. I don't watch TV. I just watch a few channels. I watch my own, because this is the very seed that is a thread that unravels. And it only takes you being suggestible once, and all of a sudden someone else is commandeering your attention. If you're not mastered in this consciousness, you won't even realize. And one of my teachers, the Jade Emperor, always reminds you, all thoughts of your mind are not yours.
Yeah.
Hang on. Well, if they're not mine, Jeff, whose are they? I always talk in the third person. Maybe I got it from Bruce Lipton. He has a habit of doing that. But you start this dialogue of getting this understanding that, guess what? You are being commandeered. Your attention, the most potent currency of this space, is being commandeered at will. And so the phenomenon that I love, the de-escalation of, and I want you to be able to share with the audience. And I tell people this: when people say to you, you cannot be hypnotized if you don't want to, that's an absolute lie.
Yeah.
Because guess what? The truth is you can, and your free will is only measured by your consciousness. And if your consciousness is a shitty 5 or 10%, you're in deep trouble, my friend.
Yep.
Does that
absolutely.
Can you share that with the audience? Because I tell people that, and they're like, but I did a session and they told me, because if they told you the truth, you would not do the session. You would not have the opportunity to help yourself, because anyone that has a high integrity and a moral compass that is reflectant of the betterment of humanity is only going to teach you these incredible skills to enhance and solidify your self-knowing through your own path. Now, there are manipulators all over the place. There are a tragic, misdirectional, failed students of, typical NLP type of training, like most politicians. They're crappy. You get the highest level of politician, and there's some shitty failed like NLP wannabe that you can just witness the rubbish coming out of their mouth. And furthermore, their inability to even do something as simple as pacing and leading. I mean, come on now. How difficult is that? If you can feel the ebb and flow of that state. And if you stay with that, and people are like, what are you talking about? Listen to any politician. Okay. I had a dream. I mean, even MLK was aware or unaware of this ability. When you get down to the brass tacks, it's in everyone, imbuing that word as a potent, really decipherer or encryptor of your state of awareness.
Yeah. And well, when it comes to LNK, he didn't write that speech. There was another one that wrote the speech for him, but it came from him, and he got credited for it, and it did wonderful good things for society. So not everything that does good thing have to come from you. You borrow things from other people, and you mold it to be yours so that you can help others, and that is perfectly okay. Now, another thing is when it comes to mind control, if you watch TV, you are being mind controlled because there's subliminal advertising, there is messages.
That's it.
And now, I don't have the TV channels on there, but there's one that I really don't mind watching, and that is the Weather Channel. They're pretty close most of the time. But on the other hand, when it comes to mind control, remember that when you do a hypnosis session, you can, if you get below 7, below the alpha range, you are attaining an area of the brain that has abilities that you normally are not aware of. Also, like you said, and that is when you raise the vibration of brainwave frequency at 100 or 50 even, or 100 or 200. Greg Braden, he did a video where he talked about experiments that there was Tibetan monks that came to LA, and they did some experiments because they had the right equipment to be able to measure the brainwave patterns there. And they got up to 400 cycles per second with those people. And that, it says, is where extreme healing happens. I think some of us, or maybe most of us, because you got a high level show here, you are aware of this video that come out of the medicine-less hospital in Peking, China, or actually Beijing now, where they were in the hospital, and there were a woman that had
a tumor.
Yeah, a tumor on, I think it was it on the, I forget where the tumor was, but they had a picture on the screen of the tumor. And then the split screen on the other side showed the presence of the tumor in the moment. And there were 4, I believe they were Tibetan, no, they were Chinese monk healers.
They were medical Qigong practitioners, which is
Qigong, yeah.
A watered down version of Taoist alchemy. Chinese medicine is kind of the same.
In a matter of 3 minutes, by them concentrating on it, that tumor disappeared to nothing. And Greg Braden say they did that because they were able to raise their frequency of the mind up to, I forget what he said, about 200 or above 100 at least.
Yeah.
That's where healing comes.
Yeah, no. I mean, this is what the phenomenon that I teach and have been exposed to for over 30 years. I mean, my bite of the spiritual dragon was witnessing gangrenous flesh turn back to pink in color in 40 minutes. Now, the most unassuming component is childlike in your nature, zero expectation, and the only way you acquire that is to be in the now moment. We call it the primordial mother, the Wu Ji. And when you're there, you're no place, no person, no thing. You're not conjuring your angels up and you're asking for guidance and calling in the universe. That doesn't take place. For this type of healing, it is now. It is beyond light speed. And it only happens when you realize that you're all things and nothing at the same time.
Yeah.
And so that refers back to the lens of a Taoist path in the teaching I share, which is everything is a bellows.
Yeah.
Everything is contracting and expanding at the same time. You're all things and nothing at the same time. And your mission, if you choose to accept it, Ethan Hunt, is to find the center point, the Vesica point.
Yeah.
That Vesica point is going to give you the evidence that's necessary, because that's part of medical qigong training, and that was more a not a reference lens for myself within my ordinance or being ordained as a priest within 2 lineages of Taoism. We would use 2 bottles of alcohol. Oh, sorry, 1 bottle of water, 1 bottle of alcohol. It doesn't matter what it is. You can take it, vodka, whatever. You must be able to transmute and obtain and attach to that alcohol, remove it from the bottle and place it into the bottle of water. And then the practitioner must be able to pop the cap and drink the whole bottle in less than 30 seconds. If you have done that correctly, you are not going to the emergency room or furthermore dying of alcohol poisoning. But that's part of mastering this now moment.
Yeah.
Is a cultivational practice.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's contemplation or conceptual for most people. But there's a level, as you put the sitters, as you refer to them, I always get concerned with any student that becomes obsessed with one level, because I've come across 2 Kundalini masters in Indonesia, and they were able to, with my own eyes, witness levitation. And the third one is one of my students. And people go, well, hey, Jifu, how come your student can do it and you can't? Because I have no interest in it. I'll give you the formula if you meet the requirement to have that material. I will share it with you, and you will have to train. Those guys train for 12 years straight to obtain that level of awareness. Now, the caveat to this is that just because you have superpowers from the naked eye that are super normal when you start mastering this stuff does not mean you're not an asshole, because these people are not ascended. That doesn't mean they're ascended. They've spent a lot of their focus and attention. And I think what Aage and I are talking about is an ascended state. And anything that's a messaging from Greg Braden is about contributing to humanity. It's contributing to a greater good. And I think a lot of people, light workers, healers, all this type of stuff right now, I get them on my doorstep. And the biggest fundamental issue they have is they haven't been able to understand how to master what we call the Jing, the Constitution, which is this flesh and blood that looks back at you in the mirror as your anchor to this reality. So they get all excited and they realize they can channel energy and heal people, but they're actually extracting it from their life force. And so they become exhausted at the end of their day. And furthermore, over close to 36 years, these people die. People I knew 36 years ago are no longer alive because they had never mastered that state. They become obsessed with the yang. They get deep into the yang and they burn it out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you got to be in control of that, but allow for things to happen. Even allowing, you can still be in control by directing it.
Yeah.
So, and also for the Heart Math Institute, they have done a lot of experiments with things like this, especially in the astral travel. And I wrote a book here a few years ago where we teach you how to use your mind in ways you normally would think would be impossible. That's spiritual science, higher conscious thinking, and how to access the universal consciousness. And I've been saying to people that if you get the book and if you read it 3 times, you need to get a hold of me, because then you are ready for stage 2. So, because it's written on several levels of consciousness. The first time through, you're going to say, yeah, this was nice. This is really interesting. Then the second time through, oh, I understand now. The third time through, you're able to do things that is impossible according to your neighbor that don't know any better.
Right.
So this is something that people can do. It is simple, but it takes a little practice. when it comes to astral travel, I've been teaching people how to do this. In fact, on Broadcast Team Alpha, I have a course on there. You can take the course and do that. And it is simple to do, but it takes a little bit of practice. Don't try it 4 times and then say, oh, that didn't work. It takes a little more than that most time. And there are thousands and thousands of people that have testimonies saying, I found myself outside of my body. I could see myself in the bed. This is not uncommon anymore. People are talking about it. You talk about it. I talk about it. A lot of people talk about it. It is the real thing, but it helps to understand the environment you step into. The first time you do it, if you really don't know much, you end up in the so-called fifth dimension often. And it is unfamiliar. It is something that there are other entities there. And when they see you, they like to come and communicate with you. Some of them are confused. Hey, some of them don't even know they're dead. And some of them, they are angry because they got caught in this place after they had a car accident and they don't understand, and their wife don't want to talk to them anymore, and they want answers. So I would highly recommend, if you find yourself there, don't start engaging with other entities, because they get attached to you. And when you go back, they can follow you home. It happens. But it is in the higher vibration where all the really good stuff is. And you could also think yourself there. And there's a way to do that. I talk about it in the book. You can learn how to do it. You understand the environment. And you can feel like this is interesting. It's not scary. And for all you flat earthers out there, do it. Go up high and look back, and you'll see the round ball. And if you really, one more thing, if you want to go to the moon, and you perfectly well can, go to the moon. But before you go, buy a map of the moon. Find the Schrödinger crater. Find where it is, so you know where it is, because once it is in your mind, you'll find your way there. So then go to the Schrödinger crater. You will see, I think it's probably 1.5 to 2 mile long building that looks like a swastika. This particular building looks very old, at least 500,000 year or maybe 1,000,000 year old. But in there is people like you and me that has rebuilt one of the sections of it, and those are the Nazi Germans. In 1944, they went to the moon in a Haunebu. I think it was a Haunebu 2, which they had for several years. And they went around, mapped the moon, and they found this building, fell in love with it. And then they came back and say, we found a place. They started to go back and forth, moving stuff up there, and they rebuilding that wing of the swastika. And that's where they are today. Now, if you use Google Earth for the moon, you will go up there. You can see the Schrödinger crater, but you will also see that there's one section of it, like off to the side a little bit from the middle, where there's perfectly smooth. That has been smudged out. They don't want you to see what it is. Everything else is rough, but that area is perfectly smooth, and you can see that.
That's fascinating. You know, as I mentioned to you before we got on, I went there the other day, and the only life force I found was inside the center point. Not to say that they're not there, but that was the attention that we were focused on. And I'm going to have to go back and check that out. But I was never, it was never my point of contention or curiosity to go there. It's just my dear friend Marty loves picking spots, and we go there, and the information you acquire when you start getting into a state of knowing through mastery, sort of access, or what we call sensory perception. More commonly, someone may refer to it as a remote viewing. I have dozens of friends that are remote viewers that use that relationship between ideomotor and ideograms to acquire a repeatable information-based self-realization, not something that is transitory or delusional. This is not what Aage and I are talking about. We're talking about things that are substantive, and they're substantive to a level of you feel it viscerally, you feel it somatically, feel it kinesthetically, where you know that what we're speaking of is true. This is not a delusion. And so the astro projection, let's go back to that, because it seems to be a phenomenon, this sleep paralysis. Now, when people come across sleep paralysis, and 30 plus years ago, I'd get quite commonly people that come to me with psychotic episodes, assuming that they were mentally ill, and you go to something that is more common within these type of rituals, which would be cultivating. For me, as a Taoist priest, one of the very rituals is exorcisms. It's quite common. Now, today, you have people that acquire their access to, the Palladians. They're channeling them. They open up a YouTube channel, and they've got 100,000 views or subscribers. Before that, we had, people that needed answers. Now they've gone from information to experiencers. This is no longer required. The information is limited. Most people are not interested in the information. They want to experience it for themselves, which I think is phenomenal. Have you noticed this through your own journey? Because the very baseline of most of the spirits and entities that I would come across 30 years ago are not the same. Today, I'm seeing constant evidence of aliens, or what people call extraterrestrial life force within the auric field of the average individual, which then comes back to this collective, acceptance of this energy. And it keeps showing and showing and showing itself and repeating itself and showing itself. And it's really quite something. Not something that I would be, desiring to find, but I cannot deny the evidence of it because I see it all the time.
Yeah.
And what are you noticing? How did we get here? How did it go from this? And most people will refer to it as a frequency, a shift of consciousness. But how did we get here today, from your opinion?
Well, I think there's probably at least a twofold reason for it. One of them is that every 2,660 years we are moving around, 26,000 years we are moving around the great circle of the galaxy, and we get to the same spot every 26,000 years. And in that spot, there is a spike of light in form of photonic light that comes out from the center of the galaxy. And we are in it right now. We're moving through it. And that spike of energy raises the vibration of everything in it. So that helps to raise our vibration. And that is not just us. That is everything in this spot, including the higher vibrations. And I think what you're saying, I never really thought about much, but I think that when I think about it, the vibration of the entities in the astral world and higher vibration also is raised some. Because I remember in the past decades ago when I was doing this, as soon as you get out of the body, I had to hurry up and get up to a higher vibration where there were more peace and higher vibration and better stuff. But here, I don't see any problems anymore. They kind of leave me alone, and they're better folks, so to speak. So maybe they also work on them, but often they are hanging around us and they are getting in our field, as you say, the bioelectromagnetic field around us. They are in there because they like our energy, and they in some ways gain from being in our field, so they hang around for that. Does that, I think that would make sense. That's kind of what because I've seen entities that hang around really close, and we all, I think, have seen that because, we have shadow people, and those are the ones that we can see them at the corner of our eye. We can see something moving out there, and then we look over and it's gone. There's a reason for that. The center of the retina, no, should I say the periphery of the retina, can absorb higher vibratory light than the center of the retina can. So out here, we can see the tall shadow and look over, then we look at it from the center of the retina and we can't see it anymore. So that's why we can see shadow people, because I have several of them living in this house. I see them ever so often. And they're here, and I don't bother them. They don't bother me. They just kind of enjoy the place like I do. And these are entities that often come close, and I feel like they are gaining from my vibration by being close to me, because our aura can stand out quite a long, 12, 15 feet sometime if we're in good shape.
No, I agree with you. There's a level of resonance that has been altered, and furthermore through the teaching that Lao Tzu shares through the Taoist path of self-realization that goes all the way back to my teachers, Jade Emperor and the Yellow Emperor, who were contributors to the construction and creation of the Chinese culture as we know it. They always refer to this, that every planet within this universe has life force. There is no exception to the rule.
Yep.
So that means that even though from the naked eye it may be unassuming and you cannot be able to register it through the technology, the life force is evident no matter where you go. And so there is a similar directive and mandate that comes with their own self-interest. Because, I explored Mars about a month ago, and they have this incredible community where there is like 7 sort of points through the planet deep within the core of Mars, where they're points of ritual, where these aliens have been populating Mars for millions of years, and they've been working on the architecture to mimic planet Earth, and they're acquiring these elements to create this very environment within the planet of Mars. So I find it fascinating how these things come up, and honestly, I couldn't drink enough ayahuasca or alcohol or whatever to come up with this information. That's why I find when you really master these states and you understand this, it's like the information is instantaneous. There's no a delay. When someone is like literally pausing and conjuring up some type of nonsense through their imagination because they're not getting the flow. There is an absolute flow of information that is nonstop. And, I transcribed the Tao Te Ching with my teacher Lao Tzu last year. We have the 2024 version, and it is so potent because we refer to that as the magical register. And I use that within the Taoist magic. Each verse is an incantation. Each verse has 81 levels of consciousness. It has a resonance, has a frequency, a shape, and a color. And you go on a magical mystery ride. So you are reading this incantation. It is reflecting back to you the imperfection through the perfection, and you become whole as the primordial mother. It's the magical mystery ride and the start of something really profound, but we start there and then we go deep into star stepping and a whole heap of other stuff that is the relationship that we have with the constellation. And this is the universal understanding, is that knowing that the macro of the micro that is evident through all indigenous practices becomes very clear when you get on that path and you can show it to others and yourself within this
Yeah.
state of awareness.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's we show by example too. And of course, there is a saying, that for the one who has had the experience, no explanation is necessary. For the one who has not had the experience, no explanation is possible.
I absolutely love that. It refers back to the teaching of
Yeah.
Jade Emperor. When you have to learn it, you do not know it. When you know it, you do not have to learn it.
That's right.
This is a true nature of understanding. There is no requirement for a deciphering, but it's exciting to start with that seed. I've got decades of exploring the bowels of Chinatown in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
Where you want to talk about magic and mystical stuff. I got
Yeah.
stories for you, my friend.
Yeah.
Very interesting stories.
Yeah, I know that's it. And the more we learn, the more we learn. So, in other words, it's up to us. And the thing about it also is that once we reach a certain level of spiritual growth and spiritual capacity, we will attract unseen influences that get in the game with us to help. And we can communicate with them. I have someone that is non-physical, and I communicate with him every so often. He comes,
mm-hmm.
and we have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And this has helped me a lot. Though he talks in riddles a lot, there's a stuff that I can't tell you, but you will find the answer. And oh, I hate that. But still, no, I don't hate it, but it's we all want, when we ask a question, we want an answer. But there is a growth process that I am supposed to go through. And one of the things that he has told me, that you are on a good path. Get your people together now, because there's a big change coming where we will help you, and there will be a project that will help mankind. And I know which one it is. I created that a while ago. And this is something that I know will be, because I have already created in my mind and I laid it out. He says it's coming. There is a big change in our society that will make great things possible. And in order for us to do that, I'm looking at you. You say that you've been doing this for decades. How come you only look about 35?
And beyond that, I started this journey when I was like 17.
Yeah.
I'm now in my mid 50s, and
Oh.
the crash course that I took was all encompassing. Within 5 days, I had an experience that would go beyond anyone's wildest dreams.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, starting with never meditating before. And back in those days, we only had evidence of meditation through Hare Krishnas and people that ate alfalfa sprouts and had hairy armpits. There was no other evidence of what that meant. It was like you had this Eastern, influence that was coming through the lens of like the Beatles, and merging into, the age of Aquarius to, the 70s sort of self-realization of, who am I?
Yeah.
What am I? This past decade gives me this idea that there's something greater. Now the Western world is merging these influences of Eastern philosophy in some type of cultivational practice. And with that, you get, I was mystified. Well, I was magically requested to follow this path, and then the self-realization. But it all made sense right back to when I was a young boy, looking through my hand, looking through walls, doing all this kind of stuff. Then I had an actual dead on arrival hit and run, and I was dead for quite a few minutes, and then I came back into my body. That's a whole nother story. But you have these self-realizations, and then I'd never experienced meditation before, and I didn't know what it was. But there was a voice telling me I have to acquire it. I went from this very physical, tangible state where I was obsessed with bodybuilding and powerlifting, and that activated my lower energy centers, which we call dantians.
Yeah.
And instantly, the first time I ever meditated, I silenced everything. There was no sound for over 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, holy shit, I want this.
Yeah.
Whatever this is, I must have it. And it was such a punch in the face that I literally went from that to channeling my teacher Lao Tzu the following day, to clairvoyance, to physical healing. And then I had what some of these spiritual new agers call, we call it back in those days, a breaking, an unraveling of the onion. You would find that this internalized state being released and an expansion of liberation through the energy potential comes within these awareness states. Now, this is what they would call a dark night of the soul. I had every thought, every feeling, every emotion at once. And by the third day, and it was over a 5-day period, I wanted to end it all. Like, take myself off the table. And I think within YouTube, unalive myself to a point where you can't go back. Because I was trying to distract myself. I'd go into a movie and I would literally see something as benign as a human, basically a naked woman, and I would start throwing up on the person in front of me. And so all this unraveling was instantaneous. But furthermore, accessing the clairvoyance and the mediumship, the channeling with Lao Tzu was probably the most profound, because he's been my teacher ever since, by second basis, because you can access the information. It's what we call within Taoism a dialogue. So I have a dialogue with 171 different teachers that are all immortals to access the monologue of the primordial mother, which is pure source. Some people will refer to it, my dear friends that are Akashic record readers. This is access to now information that is undeniable.
Yeah.
You experience that. So really the Taoist path that people don't understand is that it's always been the highest point of ascension is direct source channeling. Mm-hmm. And you will obtain that information, which is undeniable. And so that drew me from that whole experience. And then Lao Tzu took me to, now you must be ordained. You must go and pursue this and have an understanding of this very nature. And so, I went on that path, and I was ordained in 2 lineages of Taoism. But these are just fundamentals. When you get down to direct mentorship from an immortal, all bets are off. There is nothing more. When I speak on that and you get that visceral charge through your body, that chill, you know what I'm talking about is true. Yeah. This is not a transitory figment of our imagination. It has substance. And that's the power of what we talk about. And, teaching people this stuff, just as you teach with incredible enlightenment for thousands of people over your lifetime to help them return to who they are, is really the directive and mandate of any Taoist. And so when people get fixated with, as you put it, the sitters, within Taoism, it's a state of expansion that you acquire. You consume and absorb, we call it, from selfish to selfless, the ultimate sacrifice. And that expands your state. You stay on that path. You are never ending. And that knowing is always within that primordial mother, which is a primordial state of just breathing in and out, that respiration of yin and yang. There's that symbiosis, and then you find that center point, which is where we find the unified state. And when you absorb that, we call it absorbing the riches, you concentrate what we call the diamond, and that becomes evidence, and it starts to permeate through the physical flesh. More commonly, the 50 trillion cells you identify as yourself, and then you are able to have imperium, dominion, maestro, that energy potential, so that you can do things that are supernatural, as you put it. the sitters. We call it transformation. We're
Yeah.
transformational states where we go from shape shifting to, spirit projection, Shen project. I mean, it goes on. There is never-ending potential, but these things have to be mastered. And some people, and I've had it over these decades, where people are literally acquire that state instantaneously. Shout out to the homie Greg Braden. That mirror neuron state is absolutely potential, and people can, when they demystify the intellect, they can acquire that resonance instantaneously, and all bets are off. How do I know this? Because I experienced it, and I need it to make sense. But the mechanisms of Taoist alchemy are second to none, in my opinion. You will not find anything like it. And furthermore, I refer back to the primordial mother. So there's a unified state that is not evident with anyone that's teaching Nigong or internal alchemy on this planet that will teach you the stuff that Lao Tzu teaches you. It goes beyond that because people don't understand yin and yang. Yin and yang are byproducts of the primordial mother, which is a unified state. Yin is the absorption of all colors. Yang is the admission of all colors. And people don't get that and have a real tough time with it. And then they move the needle. They get obsessed with one, as you put it, sitter, one mastery, and they burn their candle. And, they're just a byproduct of self-obsession with one aspect of who they are. They're not whole. It's kind of like when people talk about love. It's subjective until otherwise noted. Love is a ground level entry because you could think of love as rainbows and unicorns, and I could conceive it as razor blades and bunny rabbits. Until you ascend to a state of knowing, you are going to be subject to the mortal material state of the human condition that will not enter into the human being until you go through that labyrinth. Does that make sense?
I got it. You bet. And hang on just a second here. That's what I get for not turning the phone off. When you're talking there, I was listening and I realized that our students, the ideal student is the one that learns from us, absorb other things to supplement what they get from us, and they grow to become better at it than us.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
that's the one.
That's what I mentioned. The student is the teacher is the student.
Yeah.
I have no delusion. I'm not looking. When I first witnessed the healing, and I must admit, for several months, I became obsessed with raising sebaceous cysts to the top of the skin and bursting them like zits. It was an obsession. But then it fades away because you become whole. You don't desire it. You don't require it. It becomes who you are. And that obsession that any student has, they stay at one level of awareness, is when you must become aware that you are obsessing at a certain frequency that is not the highest. And when you move past it, you don't desire it anymore. It's part of the expansion of your cultivation.
Yeah.
It doesn't turn into regular, right?
And then in our growth, there's often that we get to plateaus and we stop. And then in order to get off that plateau, we got to reach into the future for a higher level of consciousness and bring it back in. So we got something to step on. And continuous growth is very important towards, we have to have a vision of where we want to go. I didn't say be because there is no destination, but it's got where we got to go. And I'm doing something else that I think I'm going to mention it because it can help a lot of people. And that is that I am 79 years old.
You look amazing.
And I don't believe in aging. In my mind, I'm 35. That's when I had most fun, flying through freezing rain and thunderstorms. So, no, that is in my mind. But there's another thing that have helped me a lot, and that is that in 2009, there were three doctors that got the Nobel Prize for discovering an enzyme that reverses the aging process, and nobody told us. I'm doing that. And in this book, I explain how everybody can do the same thing as I do: spiritual science, higher conscious thinking, and how to access the universal consciousness. This enzyme is one that um, the pharmaceutical companies got a hold of it, and they created one that's called TA65. And some say that it works, and most people say, no, it doesn't do anything for me. But there is something that works every time, and that is a natural substance of different herbs, two herbs that you can take. And astragalus is one of them. And if you take astragalus is in high doses, it will lengthen the telomeres at the end of the chromosomes so that the chromosomes does not get so shortened by aging that the cells can no longer replicate themselves and they get old and they die. But lengthen the telomeres, the cells will never die and you will not age. This is simple. I mean, it's easier than falling off a log. So I know I used to own a forestry back in Europe, so I know how easy that is. This is simple. You can just take this every day, twice, and you will find that your aging stops or even reverses. And there is a lot of medical research that proves this. The doctors that talking about it, well, a few of them anyway, because there seems like there is kind of like a black taboo around this thing. The society doesn't want you to know about this, and that is explainable, knowing the the depopulation program that is going on. So we can understand that, but we can take care of ourselves by doing it. Another thing is that when you start reversing your aging process, all age-related diseases go away. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing. And I feel good about what I'm doing. So 10
Well,
years ago when I started this, I started to look a little ragged. I had a lot of gray hair and stuff. I don't see much of that. And a lot of the wrinkles and stuff, they've gone away. So I know I'm on the right direction to get the job done with it, backing it up.
it's quite evident, and that's really the allure of Taoist alchemy is
Yeah,
acquiring that, imperium, dominion.
yeah,
You maestro the cells. So that means that, yeah, I used to get excited putting someone on a wet rag and charging the yin and yang energy and at will giving you an electric charge.
yeah,
Now that resets people's nervous system really effectively, and people find that phenomenal because you can accumulate the energy and randomly zap yourself or zap someone else, but when you are able to merge the yin and yang as one and do it at will, it's a whole nother ball game. The
yeah,
biggest misconception is when people become obsessed with the yang, and your evidence of yin, your longevity. One of the most potent access points for any Taoist is the yin eyes, which is pure access to all things intuitive that become realized within this material state.
yeah,
And you need to be able to have imperium over it. It's not something that you play with and it's in your mind. You have to have evidence of it. It has to be repeatable. And so physical healing, as low frequency as that is, because it's so transmuted into such a slow state that when you see it, you're like, it's undeniable. It creates inquiry in your mind as to, well, what is making this possible?
yeah,
And to nurture that is, it's funny. When you talk about the longevity aspect, we listen to our dear friend, Bruce Lipton, right? And the aspect of what that really means. Okay, so you know, um, something as simplistic as neuroplasticity, the self-receptors on the dermal layer of the skin, your environment, transmitting that mystery or magic within what you perceive as your mind, creating the pineal thalamus and pituitary gland. You are creating this chemistry, right? And it shows in how you can commandeer through the culture medium, the blood, what you can do with the body.
Yeah.
It only become realized. And I mean, that's the fascination when people get into things of like Bagua, Tai Chi, Iron Fist training, Iron Shirt training. These are a phenomenon because you start conditioning the body, the connective tissue, the skeletal muscle, the organs with this high yang evidence that they're not transmuting the access to the abundance, timeless, endless, limitless, infinite potential of the yin, which is really the gateway to the primordial mother.
Yeah.
This is what we call immortality. This is what everyone desires. This is what you're speaking of. You are accessing this immortality through your own cultivational practices, and it's showing the evidence of your material. Your flesh and blood absolutely give you evidence that whatever you're doing, continue to do it because it will show itself. But that suppleness, that moisture is so critical to longevity. And when people lose that and they just burn their yang out, the effect, as my teacher, Jade Emperor, would say, is remind the man mortality is real. And so when you fixate on your identity as this physical flesh, you will end the game. The game will be ended. Very short, very swift, and it will return to where it came from, the soil, the earth. And you will become part of the baseline of the minerals that are the entry level to your own magical cultivation.
Yeah.
Again, we go through that cycle, that symbiosis of yin and yang. We refer to numerology, if you want to call it as such, the power of 9, the highest point of ascension, which that 9 refers to any Taoist as completion. And from that completion, you create birth, creation again.
Yeah.
And with every 9 count, you are whole. And for any polymath, they would refer to it as you can either be 9 is a number where you can be 1 or 0. And people are like, what? That blows my mind. Well, there is a reason why we nurture that particular relationship, and that number is the highest point of realization. And it starts to show itself. So I always tell people your access to immortality is in a 9 count.
Yeah.
You do it all the time. It's endless.
Yeah, that's good.
In that 9 count, you capture that immortality to create again.
Yeah, we got to think. Even neuroscience and medical science now, they're saying that most of our illness is caused from 50 to 80% of it is caused by the way we think. Stress that is created by the way we think. So if that's true, we get sick by thinking ourselves sick. Guess what? We can think ourselves well too. And we do that by visualizing ourselves healthy, knowing and believing that I am healing now. And when let's say you've been a lush all your life and you got a really bad liver. So, okay, get a picture of a perfectly healthy liver. Stick it right on top of your computer or wherever you see it all the time and know that is my liver. And you do that, you go back to your doctor a month or 3 later, you're going to find that it says, hey, what are you doing? It's better. You're healing yourself by what you allow to dwell in your mind the most. I know because I've seen people do this.
That's the potency of this incredible superpower.
Yeah.
That human beings realize they're immortal. When they realize that, the possibility of creation or of healing, of being whole, is limitless. And you you speak on this thing, and I think this comes back to the mastery that you have where you teach people astral projection, because one of the very side effects of astral projection is accessing what we call Fajin, the substance, where you're having these abilities to see into this state, but it's palpable, it's tangible. And then furthermore, we call this a point of no return, where you detach and attach as the primordial mother. That means the present moment means that every thought, feeling, and emotion, you are the physical, energetic, and spiritual manifestation of divine word, will, light, love of the Tao. That means that there is no participation of your own required. You ask it and you say it, and it is created. And that is a palpability. So when you're going through a state of dimensions, realms, whatever you want to call it, there is a vivid capture. As you capture that stuff with this tuning fork, you have a repeatability aspect. So acquiring that resonance is so vibratory that, the initial pop out, as you would put it, you create that seed. That's why the sleep paralysis is a phenomenon to a degree, because people don't realize that through the respiration, they're accumulating the energy while they're sleeping in the physical body, which starts to create the vibratory effect. And so someone with a benign diagnosis of like sleep apnea can access this state because of the way their body is being trapped by the limitations of their respiration, accumulating this substance in the flesh through their breath. And then as you start to realize that, what you consider a palpable sort of state of my heart is racing, what's going on, you're about to take off. And this starts to show itself through that vibratory state. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Whatever you do up here, well, and in here in the heart, it has a physical equivalent and reaction to it. So it will manifest itself in the physical too.
Yeah. Yeah. And so would you start someone within your training becoming aware of that? So there's something autonomous, laying down, unraveling the physical body, your attention to the physical body to prepare itself for this merging, and then sort of a training and entrainment of this state, because it only takes your attention intention to request this state to be evident within your physical body without the distraction of anything else, and it will start to show itself.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be like, hang on a second, what is going on? Am I taking off right now? Am I what is going on here? My whole body is operating beyond my conscious mind, and I feel like I'm about to take off. Yes, my friend, you just started something.
Yeah. And for most people, I would like to have them start out, because for most people, higher consciousness comes through meditation.
Mm-hmm.
That is a good place to start. It's commonly accepted. And the trick is that I run into people that has meditated for 20 years and they still don't know how to still their mind. That's outrageous. It's so simple. There we go again. It's almost as simple as falling off that log. So, okay, here's a trick. Let's do it for the next 30 seconds or so. To still your mind this is what I do. I did. I don't need it anymore. But for people starting out, to still the mind is very simple. Look straight ahead. Find a spot on the wall. Look at that spot, or maybe it's a corner between something, or anything that you can define as a spot. And then cross your eyes just a little bit. Now you got 2 spots on the floor, on the wall. And when you do that, the mind goes dull, because now it has something to do that doesn't take thought to do. And just try it for a second. Look at the spot Cross your eyes and think of nothing. Just keep the two spots on the wall. You will find that the mind goes dull very quickly. This is just one trick. There's many others, and you're aware of these things. I was just talking to the choir here, but
no, absolutely, it's important that, I mean, the simplicity and the potency of what you're saying.
yeah,
Because, you know, I mean, this would be a cue for you at that point to go look at a certain point and sleep. Furthermore, this would be fundamental to more like a stage hypnosis scenario. You as a therapist or however you produce it, you're not going to. But what happens is you are accessing a state of awareness that is potent to your attention.
mm-hmm.
And, you know, instantly. And I feel that immediately, which is this transmuted state of visceral feeling. And I think we'd have probably interesting discussions with neuroscientists that want to claim that there is no such thing as a third eye. And, you know, their argument is it's not sympathetically innervated, so you cannot feel that. Oh, I can feel it instantaneously, which I think is the perplexing part of science, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And the mind is just, for most people, it's just a mysterious things, but you can start unraveling it some, and especially through hypnosis. And I'm using self-hypnosis all the time, and it helps me a lot. And when people tell me that I can't be hypnotized, I've tried it 3 times, and I just still there sit thinking about the coffee water and the stuff that I forgot to do. And oh God, I forgot to call him again. You know, all these things come in, but I do once in a while. I do. People like that. Well, I don't do much hypnosis anymore because my partner on the broadcast team Alpha Show, she's a hypnotherapist and she's good at it. So she do most of that. But there's a rapid induction method, and that is you stand in front of somebody and you can tell him loud, very quickly and loud. You can hold his hand and say sleep. Then you got a half to about 3/4 of a second where if you shake his hand and pull it down and just shake his whole body, all and everything goes dull in his mind. His mind go blank, and you can give him directions on what to do. This is a rapid induction method that it works about 100% of the time, pretty much. That's what stage hypnotists do.
Yeah, yeah.
And I see that I had a notice come here that my internet connection is unstable.
Mm-hmm. Aage. There you go. Hello. Okay, that was it. Oh, there we go. We're back again. There we go. There you go. Your frequency, your resonance was too high, my friend.
I don't know what happened. It just shut down on me.
Yeah. Your resonance was way too high. This happens quite often when I'm around incredible beings like yourself. You interfere with the nonsense of those EMFs.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It could be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes we don't know who we are.
Right. No, I love that entry level stuff. It's incredible how you
Yeah.
can access. And what happens is people become absolutely like astonished at their ability to capture their attention.
Mm.
And they
Yeah.
realize that they're actually mastered at it. They had
Mm.
no idea they were mastered at it
Yeah.
until you show them evidence of that.
The stage hypnotists are usually the best kind because they have learned all the tricks. I was taught by a magician back in Europe, and I'm not a hypnotherapist. I'm a little too rough for that, and Nori is more gentle. But when you rapid induce someone like that, you got to go fast.
Mm.
As long as you keep information going, they will react to it and they will do what you tell them.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
why, yeah,
no, no, go ahead.
yeah, that's why it is very tricky. When
Mm.
you do a hypnosis session, you got to have it recorded. Especially, let's say if you go back in time to find out, let's say you had a missing time incident, you really should find out what that was all about. Because there is interesting stuff in that half hour that is missing, 2 hours that is missing. There's interesting stuff that you really need to know because it could put light on some of the things that is going on in your life. Another thing, Nori, my partner on the broadcast team Alpha Show, she does something I haven't seen anybody else do. She takes people forward in time to meet themselves and have a discussion, ask questions. Let's say you're working on a project right now and you're wondering, how should I make this work the best? You do a session like this, talk to yourself a year from now, and you ask yourself a question: what did I do to make it work? Chances are that you might be a little smarter a year from now. You might get the answer that it didn't work. Okay, then you can quit and start something else. Or this is the avenue that I went in order to make it work, and then you go do it. It is almost like cheating, time travel, but it works.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I mean, this is what we call the Wuji. You access the Wuji, the primordial mother, and then the
Yeah.
evidence is Bruce Lee's famous throwaway, the flow. We call it Wu Wei. It's effortless action, effortless action. So when you're able to access that, the breath is action. People don't understand this. They're like, oh no, I need to go out and I have to get deep into it. I have to start digging holes. I have to. Absolutely not. When you are now, you will show it. It will show itself to you, and that's a resonant based truth, which is everything.
Yeah.
Everything is just the ingredients of this reality is this polarizing effect, which is electromagnetism. So you're playing with this state. All you're doing is raising your ability to unify and show this magical evidence. And this is the part where people get a little confused, I believe. And that's where they need to find incredible teachers like yourself that can give them the path of self-realization through a repeatable, experiential, evidence-based experience.
Great things are not created with your hands. They are created in the mind first. I sat in the living room of a billionaire in the Midwest here almost 3 decades ago, and he said, I don't start any project without working out all the details in my head. The people that's going to be doing it with me, the funding for it, what it's going to look like, all and everything worked out in my head, and then I hand it off to somebody that I explain what I have created, and I'll let them run. I don't interfere from there on, he said. So it all starts here. Work out whatever you want to do or be in your head and your heart first, and then visit that image every day, you're going to see your life is changing.
Just absolutely profound. That potency.
Yeah.
And your sensory perception is limited by nothing.
Yeah.
People are like, well, Jifu, it's only like 3, there's 5 senses. And I'm like, well, that's the beginning. Here, I'll give you another 3. You can say your name, hear your name, speak your name in your mind. There's 3 more. Bang. Okay, let's go. Whoa. When I think about that, yeah, that's true. How is that possible? This is sensory perception.
Yeah.
And it's infinite in possibility. This has been such a fabulous and incredible conversation, my dear friend.
Yeah, it's been all right.
I think we just scratched the surface.
Yeah, we scratched the scratch on the scratch that was scratched into the scratch on the surface.
Oh, my goodness. So I'm going to put all the social sphere and interweb communications for you and your podcast and all your other offerings. Do you offer teaching 101 or anything of that nature, or is it just more go to the books, go to your podcast, things of that nature?
All of that. I would say a good place to start is go to Broadcast Team Alpha, go to the contact place, send me an email. We'll get it, I'll get it, Nori will get it, and we'll get back to you. It all depends on what you want to do. If you just want to increase your knowledge of spiritual capacity and how to gain that and do higher conscious things, this book will explain an awful lot about how to do that. And because, okay, here goes. Close to 10 years ago now, I had an incredible experience when the universe was explained to me, both in concept and detail. And I was sitting in meditation, and I found myself in just kind of like a ball of light. And I see stuff floating around in it, and it was very fast. And it got very detailed. And even though it was just a split second it went by, I had full understanding of that concept in it. And this is lodged in my brain, and a lot of the stuff that I had is in the book. And it talks about what history, the true history of mankind, as well as the history of the future. There is a history of the future because past, present, and future exist outside of the physical in the present. So you can find a lot of that stuff in there, techniques on how to increase your mind capacity and do things that you think was totally impossible. But there's nothing that is impossible. So I would say get a hold of me or Nori, and then we can find out what do you really want to do. And there are some classes on the website, Broadcast Team Alpha. You can go to YouTube also and get a hold of us. And in the member section there, we have some special videos with how to reprogram your mind about success or good health or anything that you want. So there's a lot of help out there, but it's up to the people to reach out for it.
That's super exciting, my friend. I'm going to get everyone to go out, students, disciples, 126 subscribers. When I say 126, just so you know, it's not an indoctrinated cult. I developed an app that gives people 0 to a hero experience and solidifies their energetic potential. Another story altogether. But in closing, I want to ask you this question. What is your definition of spiritual consciousness?
Spiritual consciousness? Knowing and have a personal relationship with all. Understanding. Knowing is one thing, but understanding is the other side of that coin. Everything works better when you understand it. I can know something because 14,626 people are doing it and it works. So I know that it works. But if I don't understand it, there may be a challenge to it. If I understand it, it'll work so much better.
Wow. Wow. That's so beautiful and succinct and to the point and poetic in its nature. You sort of like ruminate on that, and you realize that is the simplicity, but the complex aspect of this experience. It's so beautiful. And furthermore, hundreds of podcasts later, I've never had the same definition of that very question, as I should not, because we are all facets of that consciousness. And we bring that as that individual signature, that potential. We bring that to the table. And that's the exciting part. There's a million ways up the mountain. And
the one top.
yeah. If you dismiss someone else's belief system, you dismiss your own.
Yeah.
And that potency of the student is the teacher is the student.
If you follow somebody else's belief system, you are going to end up where they are. Now, that is okay if that's what you want. But you got to make sure that is what you want.
Yeah. That's a fundamental, because you have to experience it for yourself for it to be from a belief system to a knowing. It's just conceptual, as you put it very succinctly. It's all just an idea. You're ruminating on potential, but you haven't had it experience to make it real. Such an incredible conversation, my dear friend. I'm very grateful for you.
Yeah, we should do it again sometime.
Yes, I would like that. I'm going to make it very clear to the audience there will be a part 2 to this, because we haven't even scratched the surface. And your true admission of your biological clock that does not show itself through your physical flesh is incredible, which gives people more curiosity to want to know more, because your wisdom teaching has been accumulated and showing itself through that evidence.
Go to Amazon and put my name in there in the search bar, and then the book will come up, and then read all the subjects that is in it, and then you can figure out what you want to do.
With that, my dear friend, I'm going to thank you for sharing your time with us today.
You're so welcome.
And I will go ahead.
It's been enjoyable. I had fun.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I want to thank the universe for bringing you into my life. I want to thank the audience for sharing their time with us today. I am your humble servant and Sifu, Taoist Master San Qing, and I'll see you in the next one, guys.